Yesterday I was having a conversation with a certain friend, and I asked him a question. Could you kindly tell me who is the president of Zimbabwe currently? He didn't tell me the answer. He said he didn't know. I asked him again, all right, could you please tell me at least one of the resolutions of like the summit that was held in the convention center chaired by President Kagame for the AU? He said, I don't know anything. How should I know that? And then I asked him one last question. Okay, could you at least please tell me where the headquarters of the African Union are? Guess what the answer was? He told me Tanzania, you understand, which is not true. Yeah, so he failed all those three questions. But I asked him one very simple question. I asked him, could you kindly tell me who Cristiano Ronaldo is dating right now? He gave me, I didn't know the answer, I had to go to Google, but what he told me was correct. I again asked, could you please give me a squad of Real Madrid from 2010 to 2018? He got it correct, very correct. And I asked him again, okay, could you give me a list of Justin Bieber's songs from 2007 to 2010? He got it correct. But he does not know the president of Zimbabwe. He got me really angry and I knocked him really hard on the face. Right now he's in the hospital. So I need to understand, what is the difference between the Solomon Kalushi of 1977 and the Solomon Kalushi in 2019, who seems like to be so digital, doesn't exist? What is the difference between the youth in the 1970s and the youth in 2019? I'll start with you, Yvonne. Be very honest with us, yeah?
Yeah, I'll be honest. So, first of all, let's first see what makes Kalushi Kalushi, we see, and what makes us the way we see us. So, Solomon, Kalushi, I think I'm spelling it bad. So, Solomon, it was Solomon because of what he was seeing. The way I'm saying he was Solomon because I'm talking about the Solomon that you're seeing right now. So you see that Solomon is a big person who has did this big stuff, you know. So Solomon is a person who was driven by what he was seeing. So he was driven by seeing people, like if he saw people dying, those Soweto kids being killed as young as they were, we were seeing the oppressors doing that to his fellow people, plus his girlfriend. So you can see that he was connected to what was happening and he felt he would do something about it. So what makes us as we are, as the person we are like talking about, let me be specific. It's because like right now, I think what these Westerners have done, I don't know if they have done it or they have not, they have closed our eyes. In a way that they have closed our eyes in a way of like I think they have not closed their eyes now. They have closed it from the colonizing years and everything. Because we have always seen the white as a person who is superior than us. So when you see that the opportunities of us going abroad for education, education is good. For immigration, Canada, everybody's fighting for that. Let's say the green card. People are telling me, please apply for me, please apply for me. You see that? So those things have closed our eyes from seeing where we are and what is happening really to us. So there is no awareness in us, the African youth of 2018. There is no consciousness of fighting for what we want. So those two things makes us dumb and dormant and takes us to the person who is colonizing us, you know. Like, okay, if I can say that these things are the awareness and consciousness that we're lacking is caused by the colonized mind. So what Solomon did, Solomon solved the problem of being colonized, if I can say physically, like what we're seeing, you know, like those guys doing whatever they were doing to us. But what we are supposed to do is decolonizing our minds. So you bring up projects that are decolonizing the minds of the Africans, decolonizing them, because if you decolonize the mind of someone, then that person will have like consciousness to solve the problems of Africa. the person is like ready for anything that will happen to him, so Africa to rise up. So that's
all right. Yvonne says you're dumb and blind. Dumb and blind. I bold that. You think it's true? And if it's true, what makes us dumb and blind?
I don't think it's true. Reality, they say that charity began at home. Solomon, I can call him, he was having a spirit of individualism. He fight for all Africa, not for himself. So it's differently from today, young generation who are just dreaming to reach their future, their goals, their dreams. He was a dreamer of seeing all Africa smiling. Than today, children of today say that I want to become a pilot in order to rule the whole country and to become a superstar. But for him, he was fighting for African continent, not for his own sake, but for all Africa. That's how I can see it.
All right, Mr. President, I'm expecting a royal answer.
Great. So, if I try to look at the Solomon of today and the Solomon of those days, 1976, comparing these two people, we have to look at the wars or the struggle that they are fighting with. Okay, the Solomon of those days, 1976, he was fighting with the violence that was really visible, that everyone was supposed to be able to react. Like we could see some physical violences, and it's very easy for you to respond to a physical violence. Let's say, for example, if there's a fight among us, like everybody will be willing to go and just be an intermediary, like try to resolve the conflict. So it was something that is very easy to see, and to see the impact of the violence. That was very easy for everyone to see that his participation is very needed. But when you look at the war or the struggle that we are in, like the youth of these days that we are struggling with, it's not something very easy to see. If you look at how the Westerners and Europeans are controlling our minds through the different ways, like let's say through social media, like you would see somebody spends like the whole week watching movies, WhatsApping, tweeting, and watching some music or football or something like that, and they spends all that week without reading at least one book talking about the history of Africa. How do you expect that person to know the history of Africa, or how do you expect that person to know the president of different countries on the continent? So the struggle that we are dealing with as the youth of today is not something that I can sit down here and say, you know what, I'm going to train myself and come back and just fight like Solomon did. So Solomon was something very, very obvious, that when he felt like if he went to the army training, he can come back and just apply what the skills and the knowledge from that training and then try to fight for the freedom. But nowadays, it seems like we are being controlled without even knowing it, which is which makes this struggle very, very hard. So I wouldn't say that I agree with my fellow panelists, but again, I would invite everybody to look at the struggle that we are on and work collectively, and in order to see how we can actually deal with this struggle. Thank you.
All right, Gloria.
My answer is also not very far from the president's. It is true that the situations are different. They, like in 1976 or for Soweto, for example, there was this active oppression or something that was really tangible, which is also the case. I can give an example of Rwanda. So during the liberation period, or during the period where our parents were forced out of the country, there was this direct oppression, so you had to fight to survive. But it's different right now, and I think this is also something that is happening in Rwanda right now. So our parents or older people think that we are not as patriotic as we should be. They think that we're just not like as patriotic, or we're not caring about the welfare of the country as we should. But I think most of the time, situations make us who we are, and the situations have really changed. So it's not that we are dumb because we're not acting as Solomon Kalushi or other people of their time who fought for liberation, who fought for their rights. Because the reason why we get to be like this, it's because of them. But one thing I can say is that there are always those people that see beyond, that see that even though there is no direct oppression right now, there is this passive violence, this passive oppression, which I think Yvonne referred to as mental, it's like mental shackles we have, mental oppression of being seen as inferior, of being treated as inferior, and that is what we have to fight. But because it's not something direct, we don't fight as much. And I would also say that, like right now, what we focus on is economic empowerment, or becoming, being able to play on the same level as other people, as Westerners. So that is our fight, not really so much something that is physical violence.
I'd like to give my own explanation in a different context. I agree with most of what the panelists have said, but I want us to look at the difference between the Solomon Kalushi of 1977 and the Solomon Kalushi that would exist now, if there is one, because I haven't actually gotten near to seeing one. Now, look at the trends of Solomon Kalushi from the Soweto uprising to when he went to Mozambique and all. They were fighting to eradicate Bantu education, right? They were fighting to decolonize education in their own time, right? Now, Solomon Kalushi then was fighting for that, right? That was why he joined the ANC and he started fighting in the guerrilla warfare and, you know, started doing exploits. But what all those people were doing then is what we're supposed to be doing now, right? Then they fought. All the people that marched from Morrison Isaac School in Soweto, all the people that 20,000 people that marched on the streets of Soweto are fighting for what we are enjoying now. But we still are in captivity. You know that? Now, the whites, the colonizers say, okay, they want education, we'll give them education. But the education we're giving is still colonized education, right? I grew up in Nigeria. I read all my life from when I was young about the French Revolution, the English exploits, blah, 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 blah. My curriculum didn't include something about what African leaders are doing. Who is Solomon Kalushi? I never even knew about Solomon Kalushi until later stages of my life. Do you understand that? So what these people are fighting for, we're fighting for them, was given to them in disguise of, okay, we want to give you what you want. But we really have not gotten that thing. We really have not gotten an education that is African, that is decolonized. And that is what a Solomon Kalushi of this time would do. Reading, a lot of reading, to decolonize your mind, first of all, and then go on to decolonize the minds of other people that are actually into the struggle with you. Decolonizing the educational system and making sure it fits the African context.
All right, we'll get back to that in a couple of minutes. So we are looking for Solomon Kalushi, but we can't see him nowadays. How do we get him?
Well, thank you. To add on what he has stated, I will put it in just one word to say that what they fought for the Solomon Kalushi of 1977, the education they were fighting for is still Eurocentric, right? Which means that when we go to school, we study, but what kind of education do we study? What do we get from the books that we read? So what I can say is the Solomon Kalushi of 1977 and the Solomon Karushi of now, if he's there. Though all of us are capable of being the Solomon Karushi of today. So my question is, firstly, the Solomon Karushi of that time and of now, they are both two African children, right? Secondly, the opportunities of voicing out their challenges. The Solomon Karushi of that time had the opportunities. Even us now, we do have the opportunities. But are we exhausting the possible opportunities that we have, the Solomon Karushis of today? That guy was living in a very bad situation compared to what we have today. They had to fight. I think at times even there was nothing like communication or anything. They had just had to use their minds, because they had to construct their own ways of voicing out their challenges. But when we look at us today, we are fighting in the digital world. So as the youth of now, are we doing what we are supposed to do to decolonize or to take to take to a higher level what the Solomon Karushi of that time was fighting for? But then another challenge comes. When you look at the spheres of influence now, are they giving the youth the possible opportunities as well? The spheres of influence, I look at the political structure, I look at the economy, as well as the social well-being. Are they also providing the possible opportunities? For example, are the youth voices well known when you look at the legislative structures, the economic structures? Are we really there? That is my question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So Yvonne said something really important, like we are currently being brainwashed to the point that right now if you speak to somebody, he might not even listen to you because he's probably thinking how Messi will defeat the opponent in the evening or next week. So before we move to the way forward, we understand that we have a very huge role to democratize education in Africa. I hope I said it correctly. To decolonize it and also make it a little bit of an African contextualized. But before we get to that, I want us to take a minute, and I'm going to pause this randomly, to analyze the significance of the Soweto uprising in 1976. If you look at the statistics, it is estimated that about 700 students were killed. And out of those, Hastings Ndlovu was one of them, and he was just 13 years old. And also, we have Hector Peterson, who was just 15 years old. So the killing of these people, was the uprising significant? The involvement of the underaged, was it the best strategy they could do? Was it significant? Could they have done it in a better way to avoid the killings of these people?
About the Soweto uprising, you see, these people were peaceful in their protests against the Bantu education system. The way they went about it was a peaceful one, and I personally see nothing wrong about it, because both young, old, everyone that were under the Bantu education system knew that they wanted a change, right? So every one of them actually came out to fight. It's not like I forcefully involved a young person, say Hector Peterson was 13 or Hastings Ndlovu was 15. It's not that I come to you and say, okay, Hastings, you're 15, come, let's go fight this thing. You know, if you look at the account of the Soweto uprising, there were even teachers who were not even satisfied with the system, right? So it's a fight that everybody was fighting. And to me, there was no better way they could have done that. I don't see, at least, because it was a peaceful protest, but the police opened fire on them. So I think that was a great act of bravery, courage, and the need for change. And that was what we wanted.
What do you think, Yvonne?
What I think, adding what he has just said, yeah, it was a peaceful protest, and I think it was very critical to put a young child in that thing, because I think they even expected something harsh like that to happen. But it was critical that this government that was harassing these guys would also see that even the young child understands that you guys are not doing the right thing. So it was kind of critical, but again, yeah, it was critical and planned, if I can say, in the right way. I'd say, was it planned in the right way? Yeah, it was planned the right way, but putting that critical thing is not something unplanned, but it was something to provoke the minds or to make the minds of the oppressors also question themselves. Even this young child is also questioning what we're doing. Even this young child knows what we're doing, so that they would change or not change. So I see it critical in some way.
I really want to understand what exactly is the problem. We have WhatsApp, right? We can easily communicate. If Solomon Kalushi had WhatsApp, he would have easily communicated to Che Guevara, yeah? Or maybe to Nelson Mandela in prison. You understand? We have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have the internet, we have every kind of resources for us to use so they can better the future of the continent. But you're not doing it. Do you think the problem is education? Is the education we are receiving today not the right type of education that sets up for success? Do we need us to go again to Mozambique? Do we all have to go to Mozambique and take the guerrilla training to make Africa a better place? And what exactly is the problem? Now, right now, I want you to tell me one thing very interesting. Concerning education, what should be done by the youth? Because we saw if a 15-year-old person, a 13-year-old student would go to the streets and say, no, we cannot use Afrikaans in our education system, then I believe even all the students will do something to make education a better experience. What should be done by the youth specifically to make sure that our education is first made democratic and then decolonized? Because there are countries like mine who are still using the curriculums that were given by the British. I think this one I would like the President to go first.
Thank you. So in order to answer this question, I want to go back through the kind of education system that we're talking about. And I want to connect this to the term that we are almost aware of, that is globalization. So in those years, like 1976, when we look at the education that those students were actually getting, I was saying, if you look at the education that they were getting, as you say, there was no WhatsApp, there was no like internet for somebody, a student, to do a research and know what is happening on the other side of the world. So the only choice that they had was like those who were in the powers to bring the books, to bring the materials for them to study. So they had only one channel through which they could get the materials of like educational materials. So that's why they had the full control. Like in those days, in those years, the government that was there had full control of the flow of the like educational materials. But now it's a different story. Now there is what we can be given by the government. There is a curriculum, of course, by the ministries of education in different countries. But also, we are open to the world. We have internet, we have libraries, we have very many resources. We have those social medias, we have so many resources through which we can get educational materials that we should be using in order to educate ourselves, in order to know what is happening on the other side, what those people are getting, what are they learning on the other side of the world, so that we can also learn that and apply it in African context. So what is missing is leveraging the use of these resources. We don't really know how we can maximize what we are actually getting from all these resources. And that is actually affecting us in the way that instead of using those resources to get what we are supposed to be getting, we are actually using the social media to just know what is happening with the marches and different things that are not really important to our, like, to the building struggle of Africa, so which is a very big problem.
All right, thank you very much. So I'll move to the audience, but I want you to get prepared because after I come back, I'm going to ask you to give a 15-second speech, assuming that you are the president of the United States of Africa addressing the youth of Africa. And it has to be very strong. Pastor Messi, remember 15 seconds and I'm going to time you. Yeah? So it's time for us to ask some questions, but maybe I should begin by asking you a question. During the times of Solomon Kalushi, we had no Facebook, we have no Instagram. I mean, we had very limited resources, assuming I was there. Yeah. So right now we have all this. So it seems to us that we work much better. We are more active when we have limited resources. So yes or no? Should we switch off Facebook today? You're hesitating. Okay. Okay. Should we switch off the internet today? No. All right. We need it, right, for assignments. Okay, so we're gonna have a little bit of 5 to 7 minutes for you to be able to ask a question to them, or in one way or another contribute to the topic. But remember to be very concise and very specific. So I can already see a hand from Uche.